Peace to the tribe. Peace to the tribe. It is Ghetto. Hope all is well with you. Hope your Shabbat is off to an amazing start. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Peace. Peace, everybody. Salam alaikum. You know what I mean? All that good stuff, man. Uh, yeah, peace and good tidings to you. Hope your day is going amazing. We're going to start with Genesis 11 for today's Bible study. And as always, guys, any questions, comments, critiques, criticisms, you know where to reach me. You know where to tap in. His ghetto point of view at gmail.com. His ghetto point of view at Gmail. Also, his ghetto point of view on IG. Right? So tap in with me. Tap in. Tap in. Yeah, let's go, gang. Let's go. And the Cash App is at the bottom of the screen if you feel so inclined. So we're going to do Genesis 12 today, gang. Genesis 12. Abram's journey to Egypt. Now the Lord said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abram took Sarai his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and they all, and all their substance, which pretty much means all the stuff they have. Yeah, let me Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Twiddies. I'm on the Twiddies. I be Twiddigan. All right, here. So, all right, cool. All right. Genesis 12:5 continued, and Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, and all their substance, pretty much means everything they have, and they had gathered, and all the souls that had gotten in, and the souls they had gotten in Haran, slaves. It's a fancy way to say slaves. And they went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And into the land of Canaan they came. Canaan, Canaan's land, Canaan, duh. We'll leave it alone, man. And Abram passed through into the land. And Abram passed through the land onto the place of Sichem. 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 On to the plain of Moray, onto the plain of Moray, the place of Shem. And the Canaanites was then in the land. The Canaanite was then in the land. And the Lord appeared to Abram and said, unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him. And he removed from thence onto a mountain on the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east, or Hey on the east. Hey ya. And there he builded an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. Genesis 12:9 continued, and Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there, for the famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, where he came near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarai his wife, behold now, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. That means she was really, really, really beautiful. Like she was a baddie, like, whew, type of people want to fight you over. Therefore, it shall come to pass when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, this is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, that thou art my sister, that it may be well with me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abram was coming to Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princes also of Pharaoh saw her and commanded her before Pharaoh. Excuse me. And the woman, excuse me, was taken to Pharaoh's house, and he entreated Abram well for her sake. And he had sheep and oxen and asses and manservants and maidservants and she assels and camels. Because see, back then, see, a lot of brothers like to play this, oh, they shouldn't have to pay for women thing today. But I mean, anybody, and then it'd be so many brothers who claim they into the books too, that be talking this mess. They claim they spiritual, they claim they into God, they claim they Muslim, they claim they Hebrew Israelite, they claim they spiritual of any in any degree, and don't realize that a woman costs money. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, like she's a prostitute or some type of sex worker. No, forgive me. What I'm saying is women's wombs come are valuable. And I mean, look, the people paid for these things. Like this is not a joke. And the more beautiful a woman was, the more inherent value she was said to come with, and in abundance was given in exchange for the opportunity to have her hand in marriage. This is just what it was. So, don't let no man tell you, if you are a sister who is keeping yourself chaste and pure, if you a sister who's not out here running in the streets, if you a sister who's not out here sleeping with every, John, Jack, and Julie and Julio, and you are pure, your family deserves the appropriate amount of compensation for your hand in marriage. And that is just a fact. And anybody who don't like that, my email right at the bottom. My email's right at the bottom. My IG's right here. You know what I'm saying? That's the Cash App once again. But my IG's right here. My IG's right here. If you don't like what I'm saying about that, you disagree, you don't think women uh should there should be a payment, let's have the conversation. Let's have the conversation. If you don't think a man should have to provide and finance a woman, let's have the conversation. Let's see. Let's have the conversation. You know where to reach me. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called to Abram and said, "What is this that thou hast done to me? Why didn't thou tell me that she was thy wife? Why saidst thou she is my sister, so I may have taken her to me to wife? Now therefore behold thy wife, take her and go away." And Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent him away and his wife and all that he had. So not only did Pharaoh give Abram back Sarai, he also let him keep all the stuff that they had given him for Sarai, because he didn't want any problems with the Lord uh, for bringing Sarai into his house, because the man essentially wanted to marry Sarai. And in truth, in fairness, he was unaware. But was Abram wrong? Would they have killed him to take Sarai as a wife? Very likely. So it's one of those situations where you don't know what you would have done in that situation. Would you have told her to say, "Yo, she's your sister," so you don't get your head chopped off, or they don't throw you in a dungeon and torture you, so they can just take her as their wife? I mean, man, to live in those times where such brutality was the way of the world, and the imbalance of power would have a ruler and his guards just be able to snatch who they want. And if you are unable to defend what is yours, is it yours in the first place? Do you deserve to have it? That is an argument many people would make. So it's one of those conundrums. What I would say is I probably wouldn't have lied, just because of the type of person I strive to be, and the chips would have had to fall where they may. Um, that's just what it is. I believe that the Most High would have protected me. Um, he protected Abram anyway. So did Abram need to do that? I mean, who knows? Looking back at it with big optic lenses in hindsight, it's easy to say, oh, well, he was good after the fact, but he didn't know he was going to be good in the situation. So, I can poo poo and judge him retrospectively, but I can't, putting myself in his shoes. It's easy to say I would have told the truth now, but I don't know what was going on in his mind. The type of man I am, I would have hoped I would have just stood 10 toes down and just let the chips fall where they may. But I'm not him. And he's wrong for lying and denying who his wife is 100%. But uh, the obviously the Lord had bigger plans for the man, and everything still worked out in his favor because the Lord chooses imperfect men to draw his perfect vision. So go to the next chapter. Abram and Lot, Genesis 13, verse 1. And Abram went out of Egypt, went up out of Egypt, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. And Abram was very rich in cattle and gold and cattle and silver and in gold. And Abram went in on his journey from the south even onto Bethel, onto the place where his tent had been at the beginning between Bethel and Hai, onto the place of the altar which he had made there at first. And there Abram called on the name of the Lord. And Lot also, which went with Abram, had flocks and herds and tents. And the land was not able to bear them, that they might dwell together, for their substance was great, so that they could not dwell together. And there was strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelt in the land. And Adam said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren. Lot, we gotta figure this out, bro. We brothers at the end of the day. I don't want my workers fighting your workers. Your workers don't need to be fighting my workers. Because at the end of the day, Abram and Lot is bosses. And they got families, they got children that work up under them. They're female, the females among them are marrying men. Those men are coming under them to work. Families are uniting, families are expanding and getting powerful. Tension is growing because these two families have young men under these families, and these young men, they trying to make their way in the world. They trying to build their rank up. As gangsters say, it'd be just to get a rep. A lot of times you're doing these things to build up your reputation and ranks in the world, and you going all out for the side that you work for. Little herdman on herdman banging. All jokes aside, these things can happen even with family. So they were figuring a way to civilly resolve their problems, and so they realized they would have to separate their clans and just go separate ways, which happens. As much love as they may have for one another, it's families getting too big. We need our own separate space. We gotta kind of dig our own piece of the land out. 13:9 continues, is it not the whole land before thee? Separate thyself, I pray thee, from me. If thou wilt take the left hand, I will go to the right. If thou depart to the right hand, I will go to the left. And Lot lifted up his eyes and beheld the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered everywhere, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, and thou comest unto Zoar. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves one from the other. And Abram dwelled in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelled in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent toward Sodom. But the men of Sodom were wicked and sinners before the Lord exceedingly. And the Lord said unto Abram, after that Lot was separated from him, lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art northward, and southward, and eastward, and westward. For all the land which thou seest, to thee I will give it, and to thy seed forever. And I will make thy seed as the dust of the earth, so that if a man can number the dust of the earth, then shall thy seed also be numbered. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for I will give it unto thee. And then Abram removed his tent and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. Watching me ball is like Hebron. Let me stop. All right. Keep going. Genesis 14, the war of the kings. And it came to pass in the days of Amraphel, king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elasa, Elazar, and Shedalamar, Shedalamar, king of Elam, Shedalamar, king of Elam, and Title, king of nations. Title, king of nations. Title is the king of nations. Well, who runs Title? Or he used to run Title before it got stole. I'm gonna leave that alone for right now. But y'all know where that's going. Oh wow, oh wow, oh wow. What the hell are you waiting for? Look what you made me do. Then you drop a couple of hits. Look how they wave to you. That these made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Gomorrah, Shinab, king of Admah, and Shemebar, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. All these were joined together in the Val of Siddim, which is the Salt Sea, in the valley of Siddim. 12 years they served Sheddalamar. In the 13th year they rebelled, and in the 14th year came Sheddalamar, and the kings were with him, and smote the Rephaims and the Ashtaroth, Karnaim, and the Zuzims, and Ham, and the Emims, and Shava Kariatham, and the Horites, them Horites, in their Mount Seir upon El Paran, which is by the wilderness. And they returned and came to En-Mishpat, which is Kadesh, and smote all the country of the Amalekites, and also the Amorites, and dwelt in Hazazon Tamar. And there were out of the king of Sodom, and the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, the same as Zoar, and they joined the battle with them in the valley of Siddim, with Shedolamar, the king of Elam, and Title, the king of nations. And Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elazar, 4 kings with 5. And the vale of Siddim was full of slime pits. And the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled and fell there. And they that remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the grounds of Sodom and Gomorrah and their victuals and went away. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, and who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Manre the Amorite, brother of Eshol and brother of Aner, and they were confederate with Abram. Oh, we're going to talk about the confederacies. And just for those that don't know, to be confederate, they just means they all had a pact together. They had all come to a agreement to work in unison. They had their own UN, so to speak. And when Abram heard that his brother was taken captive, he armed his trained servants, born in his own house, 318, and pursued them on to Dan. And he divided himself against them, he and his servants by night, and smote them and pursued them onto Hobah, which is on the left hand of Damascus. And he brought back all the goods, and also brought again his brother Lot and his goods, and the woman also and the people. God's promise to Abram. And the king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Chedorlaomer. And the kings, I know I'm destroying that name, Chedorlaomer, Shalaom, Chedorlaomer, and the kings that were with him in the valley of Shaveh, which is the king's dale. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought. That's interesting that Melchizedek was the king of Salem or Salam. Melchizedek. Melchizedek was the king of Salam. Salam alaikum. Alaikum assalam. Salem. Salem, Massachusetts. Salam. Shalom. Peace. Melchizedek was the king of Shalom. Woo! Brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High. Melchizedek, king of Shalom, was the priest of the Most High God. And he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abram of the Most High God, possessor of heaven and earth. And blessed be the Most High God, which hath delivered thine enemies into thy hand." And he gave him tithes of all. And unto the king of Sodom said unto Abram, "Give me the persons, and take the goods to thyself." And Abram said to the king of Sodom, "I have lifted up mine hand unto the Lord, the Most High God, the possessor of heaven and earth, that I will not take from a a thread, even unto a shoe latchet, and that I will not take anything that is thine, lest thou shouldest say, I have made Abram rich, save only that which the young men have eaten, and the portion of the young men which went with me, Aner, Eshol, and Mamre. Let them take their portion. Abram is promised a son. Genesis 15:1. After these things, Uh, After these things, the word of the Lord which came unto Abram in a vision, saying, "Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward." And Abram said, "Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house is Eliezer of Damascus." And Abram said, "Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in mine house is mine heir." And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, "This shall not be thine heir, but he that shall come forth out of thine own bowels shall be thy heir." So you're gonna have children. Abram, have faith, Abram. And he brought him forth abroad and said, "Look now toward heaven and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them." And he said unto him, "Shall thou seed be?" And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said unto him, "I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur land of the Chaldees, to give thee this land to inherit. Ur, Ur. He gave him Ur, right? He gave him Ur. He gave him Ur of the Chaldees. Let's talk. Where's Ur? Huh? Where is Ur? Ur, 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 Ur. Where is Ur? Let me see if I could. My stuff be, you know, the brother got some bidooks. Where's Ur, guys? Is Urland? Is Urland? Is Urland? Hmm? Is it like Ireland? Ghetto, you're going too far. What do you mean? Is Ireland? Is Ireland? Is Ireland? Oh, what proof you got of that, Ghetto? What proof you got of that, Ghetto? You just be saying stuff sometimes. I don't think you really think these things out when you say them. I understand. I understand. I understand. You are 1,000% right. I'm just talking to just be talking because I like sitting up here talking. I'm not really here to edify or pass on any information or glad tidings or bring the good news of the Most High. I'm definitely not here to do any of that. So, I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Huh. Why is it not here? I don't see it. Hold on. I did something crazy. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh, this is crazy. All right. Let's see if I can just share the screen. There we go. Boom. Ireland. Of the Chaldees by Anna Wilkes from the Library of Padraig O'Brien. Talk to me nice. Ireland, of the Chaldees by Anna Wilkes, London. Published for the author by Trubner Cole Ludgate, 1873. Thanks to the Toronto University Library for the print. I want to. let's 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 just read the preface real quick. The material that has engaged my attention in the following pages is principally taken from the Mosaic, the Quran, the Talmud, and Celtic references to the first peoples and places. As far as possible, I have avoided loading the subject with technical terms and problems to be met in anthropology, a science necessarily contributing considerable manner to the text, but have preferred to use it in history, making it simple. I like it. Tradition, folklore, and other interests that go toward a proof that the first human families must have migrated from west of Europe to Asia and not from Asia to the west of Europe. This may appear strange to some people, but it will occur to the reflecting and to the intelligent mind that it is quite possible to do over again some of the work of scripture commentators and interpreters and be at the same time in perfect harmony with the Bible and be at the same time in perfect harmony with the Bible. Keep going. For instance, the sites of the principal countries, cities, and places mentioned in this book are by their own confession up to the present unascertained. Therefore, the necessity existed for reconsidering the teachings of men as distinguished from the lessons of the Bible, which for my part are accepted as correct and veracious, which for my part are considered correct and veracious. Their accuracy, they are verifiable. In the following pages, there is no, allusion to the doctrine of quote unquote independent development, but they admit that human beings multiplied from a quote unquote first pair. Let me zoom in on this for y'all so y'all be here with me. As far as I know, I have not offended the prejudices of any people or creed in making much reference to the first inhabitants of the British Islands. There has been an endeavor to show that a great deal of the past, the prehistoric as well as the historic past, is marked by their actions. From this, it is advised that their descendants, as well as the esteeming themselves of the Saxon, Danish, or Norman blood, should remove the race asperities that so frequently operate against one another, meaning these people are the same, and join with the Celt in mutual respect and prosperity, because thousands of years have passed away with man, and the correct register of his first existence and effort here, so like others, but not in a general way, I have felt obliged to labor and to particularize and bring together out of the confused yet evident relationship of prime evil man the similarities of his thoughts as they are written, of his speech as it is known, and of the signs that endure from his chisel and pen. How I have succeeded in this is now to be judged by my critics. It may be the task that I have undertaken will appear to them too difficult to the grasp of a woman's mind. They always trying to do that. Some of our best scholars is females. We're not doing that today. Some of our best scholars is females. We're not doing that today. Shout out to the sisters that be killing it in the scholarly world. That it has been difficult, I will willingly confess, and perhaps, and it like if we're talking biblically, Deborah was a judge of the Hebrews. Alethea, for whatever evil way she took the crown, was in the crown of the Hebrews. You know, Jude got to write a book for one of the most important books in the Bible. There was a lot of amazing women. King Tamar, so there are a lot of women who had amazing roles in the book, and I don't even think I'm naming them all. I think there's a ton that are escaping me at the moment, but Jude, Alethea, Tamar, Ruth. This is only four of the many women who've had amazing impact and leadership roles in the book. So let's keep going. So to say that you can't rule unless you have some level of intelligence. So let's keep it going. Whether this book be or not successful, and its success cannot be reckoned by its completeness, there are such quantities of like material yet unused. I'm gonna skip a little ahead to this final paragraph. I can, because today is a Bible study. Well, I guess this is Bible study technically, because we're cross-referencing. I cannot allow this volume to go to the world without expressing my sincere and heartfelt acknowledgement of the ready and kind assistance that I have never ceased to receive from my husband throughout the whole of my work and investigations. His constant reading of biblical history, his profound and unalterable faith in the book, and that book of books, has enabled me to supplement, to illustrate, and to enforce my convictions on the subject which I have undertaken, whilst his devotion to the cause we have both at heart rendered his suggestions doubly valuable and more than doubly welcome. Anna Wilkes, Upper Norwood, September 1873. Go ahead. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Facts. I'm jumping down here to the introduction. Facts often make their appearance with unwitting surroundings, and it is not until they have stood in their proper time under examination that they are admitted to the confidence of the knowing, that they are then often fondled and make slaves of their admirers for the secrets extracted from them. So it is that within the memory of men, new sciences are forming and are accepted from what were considered at one time but dreams and ridiculous speculation. Meaning, the things we understand as scientific fact today, the things we understand as historical fact today, were once time seen as fallacy, as crazy, as insane, as no way of being true. And we've had to walk things and change our understanding of things with time. But if we suffer, we grow wise with time. There are notably among the discoveries we may say of the present age such representative words as anthropology, ethnology, and philology, kindred sciences, each of which, while possessing great interest for the ordinary reader, makes it compulsory upon those who lay claim to superior education to be at least acquainted with them. From the mines of wealth worked by the lovers of these sciences is collected much that is contained in the following pages. If we shape our own fabric out of them, in it will be found nothing to offend those who follow truth for its own sake, while respecting the beliefs and prejudices of others. The subject proposes that the locality of the Chaldea of Genesis has not hitherto been discovered. The subject proposes that the locality of the Chaldea of Genesis has hitherto not been discovered, and that it has not been proven that it had ever existed in the East. Those who consider it as having been in the East attach themselves to an error that dates probably from the period of the first migrations of the human family. Ooh, I like this. Let's go. How? Principally because men, families, and tribes of men removed in time and place and manifesting their moral and physical nature through fear or courage in defense, offense, spirit of aggrandizement, self-assertion, and from the influences to the motive of their existence, seeing in other families and tribes separated perhaps from the time of their first dispersion, enemies and encroachers feel most things but not the truth of their common origin. Feel most things but not the truth of their common origin. So, to each opposing people, the directions taken over the continents, the settlements made, and civil prosperities created by each, or perhaps the kingdoms and civilizations they become aware of, or traded with, or assailed on their way. That means they beat them up. They beat them up in their travels, are for the most part lost to the knowledge of each. That's a deep statement. Uh, what knowledge cannot give, idea supplies. Its procession through the mind is grand and imposing, according to the great cause. According as the cause is great. Let me read that one more time. Its procession through the mind is grand and imposing, according as the cause is great. If great, it has power of inducing awe and presenting itself in grand assumption, pointing to the exact country inhabited by primeval men, the language they spoke, what their religion was, and conjures up everything necessary to the seeming of truth and the obligation of recording events and things. Like stars looking through the majesty of night, the elements of truth sparkle in idea and give spread and consequence to its creation. And to no ebullition of fancy, so much as that which forms around the truth of man's first existence, his locations and wander on earth to another existence. The fact is, mankind has long persuaded, has the fact is, mankind has been long persuaded that in the East was contained almost all the scripture sites. The fact is, mankind has been long persuaded, meaning convinced of this. That doesn't mean it's the truth. That in the East was contained almost all the scripture sites, wrongly interpreting what we were told, wrongly interpreting what we were told in Genesis that the beginning of Nimrod's kingdom was, excuse me, get out the way, was Babel and Erech and Akkad and Calneh in the land of Shinar, and that Ashur went out of that land and builded Nineveh, etc. He assisted more than anything else to make this believe, but nevertheless, it has always been a complete mystery where was Shinar. But nevertheless, it has always been a complete mystery where was Shinar. Mistaking the situation of Shinar made it necessary to find Chaldea and other countries either in or near it. Mistaking the situation of Shinar made it necessary to find Chaldea and other countries either in or near it. Because you messed up on the calculations or the location of this one place of land, by proxy, these other places of land have to be around it, even though you haven't definitively pinpointed where that first piece of land was. So you're building your entire map of biblical history on shaky, faulty ground. The tree is only as strong as its roots. Don't build your house on pillars of sand. Let's keep going. Thus, Shinar is supposed to mean in Hebrew, as shown in our pages, something like two river. This signification, no doubt, was found because it was thought it must be near or between the Tigris and Euphrates. But even if the etymology be admitted, it is an unsatisfactory explanation of the position of so important a place as we must believe Shinar to have been. Shinar to the commentators is often only a convertible term from Aram Naharam and Mesopotamia, which bear an interpretation between two rivers or the country between the Tigris and Euphrates. As to Chaldea, the name has no meaning in any of the Semitic tongues. As to Chaldea, the name has no meaning in any of the Semitic tongues. We refer the earnest inquirer to our text for full information on the state of the question. My goodness. Let's go. Y'all don't want the smoke. Y'all claim y'all want the smoke. Let's go right to chapter 5. Eber and Heber, page 39. Let's go right there. Let's go. Because y'all claim y'all want the smoke. Y'all don't want the smoke. Remarks on the sons of Noah. Y'all don't want the smoke. Chapter 2. Remarks on the sons of Noah and their tongues. I'm not even going to go to chapter 5 yet because y'all ain't ready. We're going to read a little extra for chapter 2, then we're going to get back into Genesis. Remarks on the sons of Noah and their tongues, where the habitation of Noah was after his descent of Ararat, has not yet been discovered, at any rate satisfactorily. But we are informed it was a land in which he planted a vineyard, according to him being a husbandman. His sons, after living with him for a time in this uncertain locality, as uncertain as the eastern resting place of the ark, separated because they say the ark stopped in Mount Ararat. Yes, okay. Of the descendants of Japheth, the elder son, uh, Japheth, whose people would have lived in Seir, the elder son, we are told who they occupy the immense extent of the land that stretches from Asia Minor, immediately south of the Caspian Sea, the river Oxus, the river Yamas or Yamis, and Atai Mountains, to the extreme east and north of Asia, and westward over the Asiatic and European Scythia, Scandinavia, Britain, Gaul, Italy, Greece, and all Mediterranean islands, and into Asia Minor again. Why they may have gone over to America from this, or at some point, it is a matter that does not come within the range of the present argument. Although it cannot be treated upon here, it is related to our subject. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Let's keep going. And into Asia Minor, again, by many it is thought to the west coast of Asia Minor or Dodanim, place where Danites were, bordering upon a Tarshish, which they include with the island of Cyprus on its south in the Japhethian chart. Shem's descendants are supposed to have inhabited all the land south of Yamis or Yamis, and the Atai Mountains, to the east and north as far as Japan, southward over the Pacific Islands, Hindostan, Persia, Syria, Assyria, and the country of Aram. And then, with the exception of the Dodanim and the supposed Tarshish, the remainder of Asia Minor, the descendants of Ham are assigned to Arabia and Africa. The names of the sons of the generations of Noah can be traced as having been peculiar to the Western Europe before Christ. To quote, the whole earth was of one language, of one speech, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Genesis 6, 1 and 2. Of course, it must be concluded from this that the sons of Noah were of one language and one speech, and that they dwelt in Shinar, which country was in the west, for it is expressly stated that they journeyed from the east. And what part of the west from Asia was Shinar? If it did not extend over all Europe, we will leave to the reader to determine from the facts as they are given in our subsequent pages. For the present, we safely assume that the sons of Noah spoke one language. What that language was may be a difficult question to answer correctly, but difficulty should not deter us from at least searching for it among parts that once made a whole, made one language before it affected others. Notwithstanding the arbitrary classification of the languages, philologists are becoming more aware of this fact. It is quite possible that the time and observations will reward the independent searchers after truth and bring together through them so many at least elements of the matrix tongue spoken by the sons of Noah. And for the time of their descendants, as will forever set at rest in solid foundation the materials of the primitive speech. We are aware of the gravity of such a task and that it requires volumes to do it justice. If we devote a few suggestive pages to this subject, it is because they may be found necessary to the explanation of the text and of the service in discovering a European location of Shinar. Excuse me, the laws of language and the names of those laws were first discovered by the Greek philosophers and the grammarians. Yet, as may be gathered from a passage in the Critylus of Plato, that accurate mind could not do more than suggest that the barbarians lent some of their words to the Greek. Boom! The idea of penetrating the relationship of languages probably never entered the head of Plato. It was reversed for the thinkers of this century to take the first step toward the classification of languages. The stupendous mass of the speech used by man is at this hour as difficult a task to divide into distinct families as any that can be conceived. The Aryan, Semitic, the Indo-Chinese, the Malayo-Polynesian, the polysynthetic dialects of America, and other tongues have not at present yielded much towards the philosophy of language. But as far as researchers have been conducted, the Aryan and the Semitic have contributed most. But as far as researches have been conducted, the Aryan and the Semitic have contributed most. Boom! And as we saw in the other book, Whence the Place of the Welsh in Britain, those dark-skinned Irish people with curly hair who were around short, they were speaking pre-Aryan languages. They speaking Semitic languages. Under the Aryan are comprised of the languages of India, Persia, Armenia, Greece, Italy, the Celtic, and the Slavonic, where we get the name slaves from. Slaves, Slavonics. The Semitic includes the languages of the Babylonians, Babylon, Syrians, the Jews, the Ethiopians, and the Arabians. This probably should be more the Israelites as opposed to the Jews, because I would imagine all of the Israelite languages or variances on the same language would be considered Semitic languages, because we have to remember that Judah was only one of the 12 tribes. Judah, and then Jews by religion were the southern kingdom, the kingdoms or the tribes, if you will, of Levite, Judah, and Benjamin were quote unquote Jews practicing Judaism, practicing that type of culture where people were getting circumcised, where they were trying to keep the laws, keep the original languages, etc. That was only going on with the southern kingdom. The other tribes, the northern kingdom, weren't keeping those laws. And in fact, the northern kingdom eventually went into captivity, separating them from the southern kingdom. And things went all crazy and haywire. That's when signals got crossed and things got flipped. if if we judge of the influence of these two classes of the languages, if we judge the influence of these two classes of language upon the political and literary history, we admit they include the most important of the earth. But inasmuch as it can only at present be conjectured what was the first and natural state of language, so there is much tendency to err dividing it into classes. Thus, the Sanskrit and Hebrew, the Celtic and Arabic, are not only to be studied as Aryan and Semitic languages, but as languages that must have reciprocated many of their parts. 100 years ago, this would be considered visionary by scholars accustomed to look up Hebrew, Greek, and Latin glossaries for the radicals of various and dissimilar words. But their labor in that way was unproductive. They accepted as necessarily true what had been taught to them, nor believed that there might have been much darkness dispelled and some things important to the elucidation of language discovered in the histories of people and nations, and the records of their manners and the customs in relation to present manners and customs, their names of places and things remaining in modern languages, the wars of people and nations, their contacts, their associations, peace, admixture of race, their civilization, and by their monument of civilization and decay. Man in his normal state had a vigorous language, uncircumscribed by rules, Max Mueller, alluding to the Aryan and Semitic speech, owing their owing their origin to historical concentrations of speech, wild and unbounded, says, in the eyes of the student of language, Sanskrit, Greek, Latin, Hebrew, Arabic, and Syriac are what a student of natural history would not hesitate to call monstra, unnatural, exceptional formations, which can never disclose to us the real character of language, left to itself to follow out its own laws without let or hindrance. For that purpose, a study of the Chinese and the Turian dialects, a study of even of the jargons of Africa, Polynesia, Melanesia is far more instructive than the most minute analysis of Sanskrit and Hebrew. This is just a fancy way of saying there's so much intermingling in the languages trying to figure out, who influenced who. It becomes a very daunting task. It becomes a very daunting task. Although the historical concentrations by which was formed a wild, unbounded Aryan and Semitic speech, the languages of most parts of Asia and Europe cannot be written in detail. We may arrive at an almost certain conclusion that such a language became the basis of Zend, Doric, Old Slavic, Latin, Gothic, Armenian, Lithuanian, perhaps Sanskrit. For all to say Aryan Semitic speech, I don't like this Aryan part because we know it's pre-Aryan, man. Cut it out. It's Semitic. It's Semitic. For all the varieties of one type, and perhaps no one of them can be considered as the original on which the others altogether formed. Maybe Shemitic could. Who can say from what words grew and diverged dialects and languages? It is certain that even Sanskrit, even although approaching so near to a matrix language, has not preserved, in many cases, the primitive and organic forms of words to be found in Greek and Latin. Like even Sanskrit can't show them the beginning of languages and where everything that we hear in, Shemitic languages comes from. Like this is. Let me blow your mind. Let's see. And this is still a Remarks of a Noah. Shinar is Europe. Man, this book is so deep. We're gonna really get into this book. Chaldea is in Western Europe. We're gonna get into this. We're gonna dig. This book is so deep. I just wanted to get to the part real quick where it talks about Eber before we get back into of the Chaldeans having reference to Ireland as order. I think I skipped it. Sorry, let me come back up a couple pages. No, I think I'm going too far now. I thought was it chapter 6 then, maybe? The cross is as a Chaldean symbol. Sheesh. All right. We're going to just have to dig into this book more properly when we actually have a chance. But you don't agree that Chaldees in Western Europe, in reference to the religion of the Chaldees, you are welcome to refute the information. Shinar is Europe. The way being now to our mind clear of principal objections urged in support of a radical difference between Aryan and Semitic languages, it becomes our task to ask how the people of Shem, Ham, and Japheth may be traced in prehistoric Europe, and to point out that Shinar is ascertainable to have been Europe and Chaldea with Ur in its western quarter. As before stated, Shinar, according to scripture interpreters, is the country round about Babylon, the great plain or alluvial county watered by the Tigris and Euphrates. Shinar round about Babylon is as unmeaning as the presumed Hebrew etymology of the name to river and has no reference to the land it is supposed to signify. It is slightly different when we interpret Art Kasdim, the name for Chaldea, as the country or dry land of Kasdim. Nearly the same may be said of Aram Naharam, which we are told means Aram between two rivers, and also of Mesopotamia. As the meaning of Chaldea, we are left entirely in the dark. Neither Chaldee nor Hebrew lexicon, nor the learning of and ingenuity of men have thrown satisfactory light upon it. He would have unusually bold spirit who would venture to settle the problem that because Shinar, Chaldea, Aram Nahar, Mesopotamia have a like meaning, therefore they are all one place in the east. A Celtic etymology for Shinar would be as near, perhaps nearer, the truth. For instance, Shinar might mean in Irish a tract of an old country from Shi'an, or old, and Ar, Shan, old, and Ar, or Arra, Shan Ara, a tract of old country. This is not altogether an etymological venture to suit the present purpose. Proper consideration of the old European, Irish, British, and other Celtic remains will at least make us reject the explanation of the word through the Hebrew. Elam and Ashur are no doubt in that part of Asia, now called Mesopotamia. The descendants of the Nergal or Nimrod with their distinctive Kuthite marks are there. But the sons of Shem, Arphaxad, Shelah, Eber, Peleg, Nahor, and Terah, and the sons of Ham, Cush, Canaan, and Dedan are to be found with the Japhethians, i.e., Gomerians, Magagians, Ashkenazians, Riftanians, and the Elishians people, and those of the Tarshish. And to have left particular trace of themselves in Great Britain and Ireland, and the America, in Amorica, and Armorica, and other parts of Europe, and in Spain, and indeed throughout Europe, more, far more than are found in Asia. Therefore, Shinar, we must claim, is nothing less than Europe. Therefore, Shinar, we must claim to be nothing less than Europe. The reader who follows us will, it is hoped, be assisted to decide in favor of the old Celtic Europe, which may be described as one gigantic archaic deposit in which antiquarians, ethnologists, and philologists are quarrying with the most hopeful results. The peoples and kingdoms referred to in the Bible are supposed to be are supposed by commentators to be in the East, are actually to be found in the West. They are not to be found in the East. It shall be our effort to show that not only the Celtic tongues and literatures, but the histories of distinct nations point all in the one direction, and that the materials of modern science are daily contributing to the proof of prehistoric Europe being the seat of many places and peoples mentioned in Holy Writ. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Mm-mm-mm. Gang, refute it. Refute it. You know how to reach me, man. Refute the information. Refute the information. Refute the information. It's wrong. Then tell me how wrong. Tell me how it's wrong. Refute the information. We're gonna finish over here. Genesis 15:7. And he said unto him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Lord, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? And he said unto him, take me an heifer of 3 years old, and a she goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. And he took unto him all these and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds divided he not. Oh, excuse me. And when the fowls came down upon the carcasses, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, and a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a strange land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a strange land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Oh, you mean like how the Irish were put into slavery in America? Yo, Ghetto, what are you saying right now? You going crazy. And also that nation whom they served will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. And it shall come to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. And in the same day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates, the Kenites, the Kenizzites, and the Cadmonites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Rephaims, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Sarai and Hagar. Genesis 16:1. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, bare him no children, and she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go unto my maid, and it may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, to the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Mm-mm-mm. Like, this is so crazy. So you give him your servant so he may have children because you weren't having children, and then it causes a conflict. My sisters, we got to do better with this. When do we just get back to the point where we're just comfortable with a man having multiple wives? Mm? Mm? Sisters, talk to me. His ghetto point of view at gmail.com. His ghetto point of view at gmail.com. Talk to me about this, sisters. Seriously, when is enough enough? When is there going to be enough fatherless children out here? When is there going to be enough broken families out here? When do we get to the point where we want families and we want community more than we want our egos, more than we want to satisfy our vanity, more than we want to do this Disneyfication lifestyle, this Disneyfied lifestyle? When do we want family and community more than we want a Disneyfied Western world? Just a quick question. Just a question. Yes. But Abram said unto Sarai, behold, thy maid is in thy hand. Do to her as it pleaseth thee. Did you eat breakfast? Can you have a cookie?
Yes,
I guess
we
you guys
did.
can hear this conversation. My son is asking if he can have a cookie. My daughter made some cookies yesterday. My son would like one. You ate breakfast, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been studying? Oh, let's keep going. And the angel of the Lord found her by a fountain of water in the wilderness, by the fountain in the way to shore. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's maid, whence camest thou? And whither wilt thou go? And she said, I flee from the face of my mistress Sarai. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, return to thy mistress, and submit thyself under her hands. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, I will multiply thy seed exceedingly. that it shall be not numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shall bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. Traveling Ishmaelites, the traveling Ishmaelites. Oh, that's another good book we got to get into. And he and just the traveling Israelites were found by a priest traveling throughout the Midwest in a large band, just wandering, just being gypsy wanderers, going from town to town, city to city, just just doing their thing, putting on acts. And a priest wrote about it in a book. I'll bring out that book at another time. Let's keep going. And he will be a wild man, and his hand will be against every man, and every man's hand will be against him, and he shall dwell in the presence of his brethren. He would just be a wild man, just on the go, just a traveler. He'll be a hunter gatherer. He won't have a definitive set home. Ishmael. And they called the land of the Lord that spake unto her, Thou God seest me. For she said, Have I also here looked after him that seeth me? I'm sorry, let me read that one more time. Genesis 16:3 reads, And she called the name of the Lord that spake unto her, Thou God seest me. For she said, Have I also here looked after him that seeth me? Wherefore the well was called Ber Laharai. Ber Laharoi. Behold, it was between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bare Abram a son. And Abram called his son's name, which Hagar bare, Ishmael. And Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bare Ishmael to Abram. We're going to stop there for today, family. I hope you guys were entertained and, enjoyed that. We're going to get into 17 next time, and we will have fun with this. We will have fun with this conversation about circumcisions, and yeah, we gonna have a fun time talking about circumcisions, gang. As always, you know where to reach me. His ghetto point of view at gmail.com. Questions, comments, critiques, criticisms. Send me a prayer. Send me some love. Send me some good energy, guys. Let me know how much I'm crazy and I should not be speaking the word. Let me know how it's crazy for me to say that is in Ireland and the Chaldees is Europe. Let me know how crazy any of these concepts are, and how dare I try to say that book is accurate and this and that. I'm here for the conversation, and I will humbly, gladly accept all invitations for conversation and discourse. No matter how spicy the discourse get, I promise we can all walk away in love at the end. IG's is up there at the top, family. As always, we're going to tap in more soon. Pray that your day be full of peace and prosperity. And I thank the Most High for granting you all those things that he know are best for you, all of the gifts that have been bestowed upon you, that the Most High has deemed appropriate and necessary for you to be the best version of yourself in this world. Thanks so very much to the Most High for granting you those things that you need to become the best version of yourself, to teach your children to be the best versions of themselves, and to build a legacy of prosperity, of growth, of joy, of love, and of outstanding accomplishments. Amen. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Hey, yeah. Y'all have a great rest of y'all Shabbat. Shalom. Peace.